You are experiencing the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast.
It is July 23rd, 2025, and welcome to the Knuckleheads of Liberty, where we're bringing you the people and the organizations fighting for liberty around the country and in your region. And today we have a show that's pretty much focused on the kind of the cancellations that are happening in the media sector right now, and maybe some of these cancellations are well deserved. We'll sort of get into that, but it's issues with NPR and the Colbert Report, and we even touched maybe back on some of the MSNBC and Joy Reid stuff. But then also too, we're going to touch on some of what's going on with Zohran Mamdani and government grocery stores down there in New York as well in our Knucklehead Noise Patrol. But before we get into that, let me introduce you to our panel. In our lower left-hand corner, we have our Leon, the Word Brathwaite. Last word in Liberty. He is a retired engineer in the state of California. In our lower right-hand corner, we have our screaming eagle of freedom, Tim Everett. He is a pilot in the state of California, and my name is Jason McPhee, and I'll be your host. So we always start off with a quote to sort of set the stage, and this one is kind of one of the bad guys again. Every now and then, it's informative to look at what some of the bad guys are saying, because it really has an impact on our liberty. And this time, it is literally Joseph Goebbels, and he said, repeat a lie often enough and it becomes the truth. And, obviously we don't like this guy, but what he said and what he tried to do are exactly the problems with, some of this mentality that goes on in there. And you can see this happening in our media, and that's kind of what we're going to get into a little bit in talking about maybe some of the backlash to this, because we've been hearing, it feels like, lie after lie after lie, not just coming from some of the media sources, but from our government as well too. And you have to wonder, are they following Goebbels' playbook? Anyways, what do you guys think about this quote?
Tim, you can go.
Oh, well, a lie is always a lie, and the truth is always the truth. It's just, I think he's saying that if you repeat a lie often enough, that people that don't know otherwise believe it, and to them it becomes the truth. So it really doesn't become true. It just, it's just in the minds of the populace. But I really like how they didn't misname their things. Like now we have the Patriot Act and the Affordable Care Act and all these acts that are named exactly opposite of what they are. But he was the head of Reich Ministry for Public Enlightenment and Propaganda in Nazi Germany. At least they named him appropriately back then. A little more honest. I mean, that's some truth right there.
Well, I thought we called that National Public Radio here, Tim.
Yeah, of course. Yeah.
Maybe.
I mean, this repeated lies is becoming quite a part of our national culture. When you think about it, I mean, we know about the saintly Obama that have been repeated so many times, and we should probably talk about that later on. We have the COVID lies that were told to us that was repeated many, many times. It became truth, and we were forced to accept that truth. Then we have the Russia collusion that was repeated so many times. A great part of our population believed this stuff, that Trump was really in cahoots, in collusion with the Russian government, and that's how he won the 2016 election. We should talk about that one a little bit too. So Joseph Goebbels is absolutely right that you repeat a lie, repeat it, it becomes truth. And we're seeing that going on in our society right now, right at this moment, today.
It is interesting, though, Leon, that maybe the one thing that saved us from slipping to where they slipped in Germany was the fact that we do have freedom of speech and we have competing voices out there. And I mean, it's disturbing to think of what was happening during COVID, that these people literally were going behind the scenes, talking to the media and telling them what they should be printing and what the truth was, supposedly, and that anything else should be canceled, is what they were saying. And but it's only because we had some dissident voices that I think we didn't slip. But so I don't know.
But even though you are absolutely right, Jason. However, the corruption of the media is a big part of this propaganda complex that is ongoing right now. The media, and I'll give you an example later on in the show. The media have chosen a side in our society, and they promote that side as much as they can. You see important stories occurring on the left, where the left is the bad guy. They don't cover it. But if they could find something on, say, Trump, oh my God, there's wall-to-wall coverage. And I'll give you an example later on. This is the kind of thing that is happening right now, that the media itself has taken aside, and they are promoting that side to the fullest extent. And that is a potential problem, even though you are right. We do have competent voices, and I'll put Fox News among those who are competent voices. And there are others, there are others that I subscribe to that compete, that fight the narrative. And that's a good thing to have. And I guess as long as we have those competent voices, we will not fully slip into Nazi Germany. But as long as we have a media that is picking a side, we do have a potential problem there. We really do.
Well, let's jump into some of this, I guess, biased media issues that we're having. And one of the biggest issues we saw recently is that Congress, of all of the lip service they gave to Doge cuts and cutting government spending, we got almost none of it. But the one thing we did get is a cut to government funding for National Public Radio and PBS. So that they did get accomplished. We're talking $9 billion on a $37 trillion debt. so we're literally talking about a tiny sliver, a sliver of a sliver, but it's something. It's a step in the right direction. But it's also there's a more important point, it seemed like, and that was the government shouldn't be supporting one side in the I guess in the battle of ideas. And so I've got a video clip here that I want to play to help set the stage. One of the things we're going to see in that video clip too is a discussion of this particular journalist from NPR who wound up getting suspended, and then he quit. But he was a Peabody Award winner, and he had worked there for over 25 years. And he said, this is getting really biased here. That's what he said. He even did some informal surveys that we're going to hear about where, it was just like completely one-sided. So I think it's going to be noteworthy to hear some of that. But let's get into what is going on with NPR and the head of NPR right now, Catherine Marr, and kind of her peculiar views on how you get to the truth and whether or not NPR was biased.
But what about the hard things, the places where we are prone to disagreement, say politics and religion? Well, as it turns out, not only does Wikipedia's model work there, it actually works really well. Because in our normal lives, these contentious conversations tend to erupt over disagreement about what the truth actually is. But the people who write these articles, they're not focused on the truth. They're focused on something else, which is the best of what we can know right now. And after 7 years of working with these brilliant folks, I've come to believe that they are onto something, that perhaps for our most tricky disagreements, seeking the truth and seeking to convince others of the truth might not be the right place to start. In fact, our reverence for the truth might be a distraction that's getting in the way of finding common ground and getting things done.
So Catherine Marr had been the chief executive, I believe, at Wikipedia, where, of course, that's like our national encyclopedia now, as far as the where most people go to get their information, at least a first crack at it anyways. But she left that job to take the helm at NPR, but she had some kind of disturbing views, clearly, at Wikipedia about how to get to the truth. Well, let's hear a little bit about how she addressed bias in a recent congressional hearing on trying to decide whether or not they were going to cut funding to NPR and PBS.
Ms. Maher, who is Uri Berliner?
Mr. Berliner is a former senior editor,
That's all?
a former senior business editor for NPR.
How long do you work at NPR?
I believe he was there just over 25 years.
25 years? Award-winning journalist. Did he win any awards?
Our time did not
Peabody
overlap.
Award. That's pretty important, isn't it?
That is
So
absolutely.
pretty distinguished journalist, right?
Certainly.
And he wrote a long story about what you do at NPR. Is NPR biased?
Congressman, I have never seen any instance of political bias determining editorial decisions. No.
Well, Mr. Berliner, in his story last year, wrote, in the D.C. area, editorial positions at NPR, he said he found 87 registered Democrats, 0 Republicans. Is that accurate?
We do not track the numbers or the voter registration, but I find that
Was award-winning journalist who worked 25 years at NPR, Mr. Berliner, was he lying when he wrote that?
I am not presuming such. I just we don't track that information about our journalists.
87 to 0, and you're not biased.
I think that is concerning if those numbers are accurate.
Infused with economic and cultural Marxism. Do you believe that America is addicted to white supremacy?
I believe that I tweeted that, and as I've said earlier, I believe much of my thinking has evolved over the last half decade.
It has evolved. Why did you tweet that?
I don't recall the exact context, sir, so I wouldn't be able to say.
Okay. Do you believe that America believes in black plunder and white democracy?
I don't believe that, sir.
You
Don't know where
tweeted
statement
that in
comes from.
reference to a book you were reading at the time, apparently, The Case for Reparations.
I don't think I've ever read that book, sir.
You tweeted about it. You said you took a day off to fully read The Case for Reparations. You put that on Twitter in January of 2020.
Apologies, I don't recall that I did.
Okay.
I'd no doubt that your tweet there is correct, but I don't recall that.
Okay. Do you believe that white people inherently feel superior to other races?
I do not.
You don't. You tweeted something to that effect. You said, I grew up feeling superior. How white of me. Why did you tweet that?
I think I was probably reflecting on what it was to grow up in an environment where I had lots of advantages.
It sounds like you're saying that white people feel superior.
I don't believe that anybody feels that way, sir. I was just reflecting on my own experiences.
Do you think that white people should pay reparations?
I've never said that, sir.
Yes, you did. You said it in January of 2020. You tweeted, yes, the North, yes, all of us, yes, America, yes, our original collective sin and unpaid debt, yes, reparations, yes, on this day.
I don't believe that was a reference to fiscal reparations, sir.
What kind of reparations was it a reference to?
I think it was just a reference to the idea that we all owe much to the people who came before us.
So there you go. And this is the article actually that they referenced from Mr. Yuri Berliner. But yeah, essentially 87. And apparently he was just looking at, I guess, the economic side of things, which should have had more conservatives. I mean, it should have been a closer balance. And it was 87 to 0 Democrats. And I actually heard somebody pushing back against this, that somebody in a meeting identified as an independent. As though that totally defeats the argument. But yeah,
I'm sure it does. Yeah.
But anyways, what do you guys think about this? I mean, clearly this is the executive director of NPR. Clearly has some odd ideas about how to get to the truth. It's about manufacturing consensus, and she wants our money to do it. So, anyways, yeah.
This is the most fundamental question of all. Why do we need public radio? Why do we need any government funding? Why do we need any government funding for any sort of media like PBS or NPR? Why? We have so many media outlets here available to us. Okay, I don't even listen to these people, quite frankly. But why do we need it? What is the point of it? And then you quote the statistic where the people who are taking our tax dollars to promote the truth is surely left wing at its core, and we're supposed to pay for this. This is a serious problem. I don't mind somebody being on the left. If they want to be on the left and they want to spill their garbage, they're free to do so. Just don't ask me to pay for it. That's all. Don't ask me to pay for it. Not at all.
That sounds logical to me.
Yeah. No, clearly that's the issue with the NPR story, is that, you know, PBS and NPR are saying they still need our money. And the last I checked, there's a ton of ways to reach people out there.
Yes.
We don't need a government media arm here to do it. I mean, it just literally, you have government agencies, they can go to the press, say what their view is on something, and the press can report it however they want to report it. So I don't really understand this, but boy, they are fighting tooth and nail, or they were, to be able to keep that funding, even though they claimed it was just a small percentage of their funding. So,
Tim, you wanted to say something?
No, no.
But we have to look at how we spend our money. All right. I mean, this is supposed to be the era of Doge. Okay. And we have to ask fundamental questions as to why we are spending money on program X, why we are spending money on program Y, why we are spending program on program Z. We have to keep asking these questions. So when these people like this woman comes up and say, well, we need money for to keep public radio going, the question we should first ask is why? Why? What is the basis? And if she can't answer that, we shouldn't give any damn money. And I'm sure she cannot answer it.
Yeah. But and this really goes down to libertarian principles of government too. I mean, what is the minimum that government should be doing, or what is the maximum? I guess, and the maximum really is we're minimalists. We think that government should just be defining and defending private property rights. I mean, that's pretty much where government should be limited to. And there's going to be some tricky areas that are really hard to define. So maybe government is a possible answer in those areas, but that's it. I mean, the idea that why does government? I mean, we literally have all this immense variety of media, and yet supposedly we're funding it, which is just a very specific message in media, at public broadcasting. So it's really it's interesting too that the left is fighting tooth and nail to keep that funding, whereas the right wants to eliminate it. I kind of have a feeling if the shoes were on the other feet, the right might be defending it, but this is the situation we have where the message is against the right, so the right is appropriately trying to cut that funding. But yeah, anyways, the problem in the media goes well beyond NPR and PBS. That was just more of a government funding issue, but we've seen this slip into other areas as well, and including And like I said, this isn't just on the left. We have, media sources that are kind of biased on the right as well. But yeah, I think a lot of that shift to the right, or at least those entities that have grown up on the right, are more of a response to what we've seen on the left, and just kind of how crazed some of this stuff is going. So one, thing we talked about a few months ago was MSNBC, after the elections, decided to just clean house in their network, and one of the people they got rid of was Joy Reid, who was a very prominent figure in their network, and the stuff that she was pushing was just I don't know how else you can say it other than just extreme propaganda that was one-sided, and this is supposed to be a news network. So let me show a quick video just for anybody who's not familiar with who Joy Reid is, so you can see kind of how her show sort of evolved and how exactly it ended.
Yale-trained psychologists counsel those who are distraught about the results of the presidential election and frankly frightened over the prospects for their own lives because of it, that they do not owe the people who voted for the very things they're terrified of their time over the holidays.
There is a push, I think, just a societal norm that if somebody is your family, that they are entitled to your time. And I think the answer is absolutely not. So if you are going to a situation where you have family members, where you have close friends who have voted in ways that are against you, like what you said, against your livelihood, and it's completely fine to not be around those people and to tell them why.
Y'all just tell me who the nominee is going to be. Let me know when you guys are finished fighting amongst yourselves who I got to vote for in November to keep Hitler out the White House. That's all I want to know. Who I got to vote for to keep Hitler out the White House. Oh, and by the way, if it's Biden in a coma, I'm going to vote for Biden in a coma.
I mean, this really was an historic, flawlessly run campaign. Queen Latifah never endorses anyone. She came out and endorsed. She had every prominent celebrity voice. She had the Taylor Swift, she had the Swifties, she had the Beehive. Like, you could not have run a better campaign in that short period of time. And
my show had value, and that what I was doing had value. And in the end, I try not to cry on TV. And I think this is kind of like me on TV, so I apologize.
So anyways, yeah, I mean, clearly, telling people that they should disassociate from their relatives if they voted differently. I just, Orange Hitler, vote for a guy in a coma. I don't know. What do you guys think? I mean, this to me just seems like how divided we are as a country, and the way that we just completely see the world differently.
Tim, you want to go? Go ahead.
Okay, it's just it's just very thankful that we have so many sources of information today, and thanks to the internet and all the things that have propped up independent sources. Now you don't need to be a multi-billion-dollar corporation like ABC, NBC, CBS to have something to say. Now everybody with a YouTube channel can potentially become influential, put it that way. And so yeah, I think it's a great thing, and I certainly enjoy getting my information from trusted sources that I've basically listened to for the past 20 years. But it's just sources that are not any in any way connected to the mainstream media. So yeah, just great. What's going on?
In this particular case, this Joy Reid is a representation of what the media in this country have become. Joy Reid have said some of the most lunatic things you could imagine on TV. I mean, I am shocked that she lasted this long, because I think she been on MSNBC for quite a number of years. But this woman is I would say insane. It's an insanity on steroids. The things that come out of her mouth, and Jason just is just a few snippets of the kind of stuff that this woman really gets into. But the point is, though, I mean, I really don't mind Joy Reid on TV. I don't mind people like Joy Reid on TV. What I do mind is these people pretend to be objective. And some of these people, like NPR and PBS, want me to pay for it. But these people with their fake objectivity are doing nothing but promoting propaganda. And that's okay. If that's your thing, go in and promote the propaganda. The thing is that when we have situations where you take sides with the government, this is fascism. When you take sides with the government against us, this is the problem that we are having. Just today I saw a very good example of what I'm talking about. I was watching, before I came on here tonight, I was watching World News Tonight with David Muir, whatever the hell his name is. So there were some big events that occurred today. Okay, one of them was Brian Kohlberger, that killer from Idaho. He was sentenced to life in prison, and ABC News covered it. Fair game. Also today, it was, I think, the Wall Street Journal put out an article that Pam Bondi told Donald Trump that his name appeared in the Epstein files multiple times. And ABC News went to work on that like you wouldn't believe. Long coverage. I think they must have given it about 5 minutes. But also today, Tulsi Gabbard, who is the director of national intelligence, stood before reporters in the White House and laid out a very credible case against Barack Obama, but how he was trying to essentially overthrow a duly elected president. A very, very credible case. She have also referred his name to the Justice Department for possible investigation and prosecution. And all his aides, all his top aides, Brennan, Kappa, and all of these guys are all involved in this. How much time do you think ABC News spent on this? The saintly Obama is now being tarnished. But the propaganda has to continue. And this case, the propaganda continues by not covering what is clearly very important news. We have an ex-president trying to destroy the presidency of his predecessor. And you know what? The saintly Obama is still worshipped here in America. This is the kind of propaganda we are facing today. and the dangers of the media intertwining with the government. Fascism at work.
Well, and Leon, to kind of hammer that point just a little more before we go into the break here, some of the consequences of what this bias can lead to in the media is just, it can literally turn an election. And we kind of saw that in the, lead up to the Biden-Trump election, the first one, where, a laptop came out that, Hunter Biden had all kinds of sort of illicit activity on that. There may have been some implications to, I guess some corruption that was going on in Ukraine that he was dealing with, just all kinds of things that didn't get investigated because 50 intel chiefs literally were decided behind the scenes. In fact, they were asked by the Biden team to give them something, and that's what they gave him. So this was something that was literally asked for. They didn't even just generate this on their own. And it said that, hey, look, there's this laptop. If it looks like it's Russian disinformation, and all of these news organizations, instead of doing what a news organization should do, which is to question government, they all just bid on to what they were being told and didn't question it at all. And they just ran with that story that it was all fake and Russian disinformation. And it took some of these news organizations several years before they would later on come back to say, yeah, I guess it was real, but that's after it had already turned an election. So that's kind of this is what's at stake, I guess. And it's really big. And it's not just, you could probably tie this into our debt and all kinds of other issues too. If we're being manipulated, this is kind of where we're at. And
as a follow up to that, because of this laptop situation that you just spoke about, Jason, Joe Biden became president. It was clear to everybody in America, Joe Biden was having some cognitive problems. Even during the 2020 election, you could go on YouTube and see it all.
Well, Leon, before you finish that thought, if anybody wants to hear the end of that thought, they're going to have to tune in online because that's all the time we have for public access. So check out the rest online. But anyways, if you're watching online, then back to the show.
Yes. Biden's cognitive decline reached such a critical stage that apparently, and I say apparently because nobody knows for sure, his staff was using the auto pen to sign executive orders, to sign presidential pardons and all kinds of stuff. They were using the auto pen to do this. Congress is investigating this. And 3 of Biden's staff have already taken the fifth. Oh, I cannot incriminate myself under the Fourth Amendment or the Fifth Amendment, blah, 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 and all kind of nonsense. What it is that they have to hide? What it is that they have to hide? If they're just doing their job, what it is that they have to hide? Biden said, oh, I was making all my decisions. Okay, well, if you're making all decisions, then we have no problem. So what it is that they have to hide? But this is the problem. Alexander Thompson, who with Jake Tapper wrote the book called Original Sin, he went to the White House Correspondents' dinner, and he made this nice, wonderful speech. In this speech, he said, I just want to say we missed the story about Biden's cognitive decline. Listen to what he said. We missed. No, Alex, we ignored because of your own damn bias. We ignored. Jake Tapper is the same damn thing. Oh, now he come in with this mea culpa. Oh, yes, this one was right. That one was right. I was wrong. All of them. Now he's saying that. But why Biden was making all sorts of executive decisions while this man held the nuclear codes in his hand, he was barely competent as a human being. This was going on in our country. This was a constitutional crisis of the highest order. Did the media cover it? How many of you know anything about this from mainstream media? Did they cover it? I know a lot about it because I don't subscribe to them. But these people, ABC, NBC, and CBS, all of them just cover it up. CNN, all of them just cover it up because it was the wrong person. Donald Trump should not win. We can't have Trump. Orange Man is Hitler, according to Joy Reid. Orange Man is Hitler. We got to keep him out of the White House. And this is what our media have become. Like I said, they have chosen side, and this is fascism at work. So we need alternative media to really push back against these people. Otherwise, we slip right into that Nazi Germany you were speaking about, Jason.
Yeah. Well, if I'd remembered to show that clip too, we've shown it a bunch of times on the show, but was Joe Scarborough saying that this is the best Biden ever, and F you if you can't handle the truth. So, I mean, that's about as bad as it gets for the media calling it wrong, and then like a month or so later, suddenly Biden's out because he's not mentally cognizant of what's going on. So, yeah, just absolutely nuts. But,
I don't see a problem because, and the reason why is because, Leon, what is their ratings? All the mainstream media outlets, all of them, every one. What is their ratings? How are they doing? Are they way up there? Highest ratings ever? The vast majority of the American people listen to every word that they utter.
Well, no, Fox News is busting their ass, to be honest. They really are. They're busting their ass. The mainstream media is getting trumped by Fox News. Yes. But go ahead, make your point, please.
Well, I call them part of the mainstream media too, but I mean, okay, so maybe one of them's doing a little better than the others, but I mean, they're all suffering because you can't take the viewership and pull them in 50,000 different directions, and I'm not exaggerating when I say 50,000 different directions. I mean, and it's not just the news; it's everything. It's whether they want to go sing karaoke that night or whatever. People are not sticking around for this kind of nonsense like they used to, and so they've got so many other avenues to collect news about what's going on in the world, and they're spending time there. They're spending a lot more time on Facebook than they are in front of their television set watching CNN, for example. And that's just one of a bazillion, well, not a bazillion, but 50,000 different directions people are being torn. So when you couple that with the complete amount of lies that are coming from the mainstream media, and they've been caught in it so many different ways and so many times, then people then go, why do I want to listen to this? It's just just a pack of lies. And so they're choosing other media, and other things to do, and besides watching this. Remember when it was 6 o'clock news? First of all, it was you had 6, then you had 11 o'clock. Okay, a little wrap up at 11 o'clock, and you had 3 channels. Okay, well back then you took it. You sat down to dinner and you turned on the 6 o'clock news, and there it was, and you watched the 6 o'clock news, and everybody was watching it. They picked their favorite whatever talking head, and so. But it's so far removed from that now that these talking heads have not, they just lost their power. That's beautiful thing.
Well, Tim, yes, I will give you some credits for that statement, those statements you have made about the mainstream media. But how do you think the Biden campaign was able to suppress the laptop? How did they pull that off? Because they did.
You're talking in
the 2020 election, they did. How were they able to do that? How were they able to suppress a laptop?
Well, because the people that were close enough to it that could have let more information out about it were not inclined to do it, because wasn't he already elected? Wasn't he already?
No, I'm talking about during the election.
Who was president?
Biden was running against Trump. The laptop came out in October before the November election, and they were able to successfully suppress the contents of that laptop. And many people, many polling people said if the contents of that laptop were out, Biden would not have won the election. So my question then, given what you have just said,
this was when
the 2020 election.
Okay, when Trump was in office.
Trump was seeking a second term.
And to give you guys just a little more context, the news organization that scooped it was the New York Post.
Yes.
And they were immediately canceled from Twitter. So that when they tried to post their news articles on social media for everybody to read them, they got canceled. They were told that they were Russian disinformation and they weren't allowed to publish the stuff until it was, I think, 2 to 4 weeks later, after it wasn't, it wasn't quite news. And then it was, I think it was too close to the election or after the election that made a difference at that point. So people would have had time to consider it, but it was literally blocked out by almost like a cabal of government.
My question is, how did the Biden campaign, they were not in office, Trump was in office, how did the Biden campaign successfully shut that laptop, information about that laptop completely down? The New York Post was kicked off. I mean, every Facebook shut down, everybody shut down. How did they pull that off?
I would have to say that it was because they have friends in the FBI and the CIA that were working in cahoots with them.
Exactly. This is my point. The mainstream media have taken sides with the government. And this is exactly what happened. All those 51 intelligence officers who came out and said, oh, that is nothing but Russian disinformation. And Joe Biden said that in his debate against Trump. And this is what is happening when we are slipping towards fascism, where the mainstream media have taken sides against the American people. These people, these media people, some of the most dishonest people on planet Earth have taken sides and is colluding with the government against the American people. And that is why they were able to successfully suppress the contents of that laptop.
Well, and Leon, it's a little more complicated too, because remember, Trump was in office then. So these were essentially deep state intelligent people who didn't want Trump in office. So they were literally colluding. And then to top it off, you have a lot of these people who were deep staters who were working for the social media and media companies. So they were helping them. It was almost like, a game of phone tag or something between these people, of them saying, hey, we'd really like you to suppress this. And, oh, yeah, I used to work with you over there. Sure, that sounds like a good call.
Well, yeah. And so also piggybacking on to the lack of credibility that exists now with people's ideas about the mainstream media. On top of that, there's not a whole lot of credibility with the FBI and the CIA among the average American, I would assume, today. So, they're spoiled. They are poisoning their own well, and there's an alternative. And it's these alternative media outlets that we have today because of the internet and voices that we have, people we can talk to. I mean, former heads or former people that used to work in the CIA and the FBI that are coming out. And it's like, being interviewed on a podcast or whatever. And,
well, sadly, Tim, most of them are supporting the deep state narrative on these podcasts.
Well, yeah, but there are
others.
Yeah, but there are some that are whistleblowing in a quiet way, I guess.
Yeah. By going on libertarian podcasts. That winds up being a quiet way.
yeah, that's a quiet way. But it makes a difference, I think. And it's going to make more of a difference.
But the point is, though, they were able, in terms of the successful closing out, shutting down of the laptop information, they were able to silence big voices. ABC, NBC, CBS, Fox News, New York Post, who broke the story. Miranda Devine, actually, is the woman who broke the story, actually. All of these people, they were able to successfully shut down. And this is very, very concerning. This is my point, Why were they able to successfully do this? This is scary, in my mind. Scary.
Yeah. Well, I think you answered that question. And I think just somebody's trying to suppress Jason because he's out of focus.
Yeah, no, I was just noticing that. I'll try and fix it during the next video. But one of the things too, I think that's worth noting here too, is not necessarily a conspiracy that this happens. Like when the guy Yuri, I can't remember the guy's name is, who they were talking about at NPR, who reported, hey, look, 87-0 Democrats versus Republicans in this one area of the news that's being covered, and that's probably a more conservative area. So, it just shows you what's going on in the rest of the agency. But it's something that was pointed out by Jonathan Haidt, and that's that most of these social science departments in colleges are like 20-1,
Yes.
Democrats versus Republicans. So you
Yes.
take a sort of more of a liberal arts area like journalism, and that's going to be massively biased, the people coming out of there. And it's funny because the people who are pushing back are a lot of these people who are independent people who are just figuring out how to be journalists online, run blogs and other stuff. They haven't gone through all this journalism education, at the colleges. And so that may be why it's not so stacked for the left on all of these different podcasts and stuff.
Good point.
Yeah.
Good point.
Well, that does bring up another area, though, and that is late night comedy, right? Late night comedy is just another area of the media, and we're seeing like kind of the same thing happen there as well. The Colbert show, I think it's called The Late Show now, but with Stephen Colbert, that just got canceled. And let me see if I can bring up the visual on that. So again, it's been something where, we used to watch late night 25 years ago, and it felt like guys like Carson and Leno were kind of giving it equally to both sides. Now, this has become just a left-wing circle jerk is what it feels like when I go in to watch some of those shows. It's just endless attacking of Republicans, MAGA, and Trump.
Yes.
And it's just kind of like they're literally pushing half their audience away. Let's watch a quick video just to get a sense of what happened and why it's gone that way.
Before we start the show, I want to let you know something that I found out just last night. Next year will be our last season. The network will be ending The Late Show in May. And yeah, I share your feelings. It's not just the end of our show, but it's the end of The Late Show on CBS. I'm not being replaced. This is all just going away.
So The Late Show was being canceled because it lost a lot of money. In fact, last year, I believe it lost $40 million. And this is kind of an issue that the audience has eroded on all these shows. And it's eroded specifically because they become so overly politicized that they have shed audience in buckets. And we're going to go through a few examples here so you can see just how they become both propaganda machines and extremely politicized to the point where they're just pushing away half the country.
The vaccine.
So who can forget the shameless vaccine plugs for Pfizer that Colbert did on this show? Here are a few more late night examples of the extreme politicization of the shows.
Over the weekend, it sunk in that they're killing off our show. But they made one mistake. They left me alive. And now... And now for the next 10 months, the gloves are off. I can finally speak unvarnished truth to power and say what I really think about Donald Trump.
So, you're familiar with Jane Goodall, the great zoologist, anthropologist? Jane Goodall devoted a big chunk of her life to studying chimpanzees, wild chimpanzees. She spent years in the jungle observing them, learning about them. And in many ways, I feel like I've been doing similar work over the past 8 years, observing Donald Trump. No offense to the chimpanzees, but...
The fear and pre-compliance that is gripping all of America's institutions at this very moment. Institutions that have chosen not to fight the vengeful and vindictive actions of our pubic hair doodling commander-in-chief. So to those institutions, to those corporations and advertisers and universities and law firms, all of them, if you still think that bending the knee to Trump will save you, I have one thing to say.
But one thing to say, just one little phrase. You tell them,
go fuck yourself!
Of course, back when late night was king, they had a different comedian on the throne, and that was Johnny Carson. And he had a different perspective on this. He tried not to make it overtly one-sided and political.
People say he'll never take a serious controversy. Well, I have an answer to that. I said, now, tell me the last time that Jack Benny, Red Skelton, Benny, comedian, used his show to do serious issues. That's not what I'm there for. Can't they see that? But you're not. Why do they think that just because you have a Tonight Show that you must deal in serious issues? That's a danger. It's a real danger. Once you start that, you start to get that self-important feeling that what you say has great import. And you know, strangely enough, you could use that show as a forum. You could sway people, and I don't think you should as an entertainer.
And so there we have it. And this was the little clip we showed there of Jon Stewart literally telling Trump and the people who weren't standing up to him to go F themselves on his show. So that's kind of how we've gotten to where we've gotten to, right? I mean, it's just extremely political. I remember I used to listen to Conan O'Brien almost religiously, and he kept it pretty even as well, maybe just slightly to the left. But now it's just like you've got to be in that tribe to appreciate the show. Otherwise, it's just, it's tough to listen to. What do you guys think?
So this was the you know what is happening to comedy, late night comedy, and I guess other forms of comedy is these people are cutting away half of the country from their audience. I mean, I expect a comedian, a good comedian, to be in the mood of Johnny Carson, where you go after the left, you go after the right, and you go after everything that's in between. And that is what comedy should be about. But again, we get back to this point about taking sides. I remember Jimmy Kimmel on, or Kimmel, or whatever the hell is pronounce his name, the day after the last election, the presidential election, he almost on the brink of tears talking. It was bad for this, it was bad for that, it was bad for the other, it was bad for that, it was bad for immigrants, it was bad. And he went on and on and on and on, almost on the brink of tears. And this man is supposed to be a comedian on late night. And this is what is happening. These people have pushed away their audience. That's what it is. The most suicidal thing you could think about when you have a late night show. If you're pushing away your audience, then what's going to be left? Huh? What is left is that the show going to get canceled, just like Stephen Colbert got. Okay, he became very political, going after Trump and the Republicans at every turn. Oh no, where is he? His show got canceled. Okay, he's still a wealthy guy. I'm sure he's going to be all right. That's not a problem. But the show is gone now. Why? You push away your audience. It's plain and simple.
Well, to be fair, there's George Carlin too, or was George Carlin.
Sure. Yes.
He's almost as old as thinking about Johnny Carson as well. You know, you really got to go back to get to that era when comedians were a lot better. And he pushed more against the right than the left, but still, he kind of called the craziness of the left when he didn't like their language or something, when he thought they were being manipulative on things. So
sure, yes.
Yeah, and of course George Carlin didn't have a show, have his own show, and I see, the wisdom behind Johnny Carson saying, if you've got a regular show where you're trying to be just funny for everyone, just so it's more lighthearted. I can see where you've got a vested interest in trying to keep the politics out of it. But I mean, today the politics is infused in everything. It's seeped into every little nook and cranny, and it just gets pathetically sickening. I got a whole list of people on Facebook that I have unfollowed because I just don't want to listen to the politics. It's constant. It's all it is. It's like, okay, you have no other life. It's only about politics and their opinion about this or that.
Yeah.
Anyway,
Yeah.
I just get sick of it.
Well, I mean, you could see why it could get sickening, even though this incident was not on late night. Is that clip you showed, Jason, where people are talking with Joy Reid about, just because your family or your friends vote a different way than you, that means you should not talk to them. You should not have Thanksgiving dinner with them or Christmas dinner. This is the kind of madness that have seeped into our culture. This is insanity on steroids.
Yeah. Well, and I kind of feel like for libertarians, it's a little bit different in the sense that we're already a tiny minority, but our opinion is we just want to be left alone by government. So I feel like our cause is slightly more righteous than those who want to grab government to beat somebody over the head with. Right? So, and certainly living in California, I feel like, we're always being beaten in the head with different government policies.
I haven't unfollowed you, Jason.
Yeah, yeah. Well, it's hard being a libertarian not to see the world in terms of how people are abusing us with government.
yeah. But this is where this is dangerous, though. I mean, we laugh at this, honestly, and it makes for good comedy at times. But the truth of the matter is, when government touches anything, we know it turns to shit. So if the government is touching our avenues of speech, our news outlets and everything, what's going to happen? Censorship.
There goes the family show rating.
Yeah, yes, indeed.
Well, speaking of government turning everything to shit, that's kind of what's going on in New York right now. And government now wants to, let's see, why isn't this coming up? Oh, there it goes. It looks like there was a drag on it. But government is literally wants to run grocery stores there now. Yeah. At least the mayoral candidate there, Zoran Mondani. And we talked a little bit about this on a previous show. It kind of crept in. But this is, kind of such a big deal that we've got somebody who is an avowed socialist who literally wants to take on a lot of the failed ideas of socialism and a lot of terrible places and bring them right to New York. And it's just such a disaster there that maybe the people are going to opt for it. But I did collect just a little bit of video just to give people a little background on what it is that he is trying to do.
A campaign promise from mayoral candidate Zoran Mamdani for cheaper groceries from city-run stores. It's getting some backlash. There have been protests from both bodega owners and the head of the Gristedes grocery chain, who says he'll close or sell his business if Mamdani's elected.
Furious at Mamdani's proposal to open up a network of 5 city-owned grocery stores.
These stores will operate without a profit motive.
Mamdani says they would instead focus on affordability over profit and would leverage the lack of overhead costs like rent or property tax to pass on savings to shoppers.
It costs less than half of what the city's already set to spend on subsidizing corporate supermarkets without any guarantee of cheaper prices.
Katsamatidis, a Republican who's supporting Mayor Adams in his re-election campaign, compares Mamdani to socialists and communist authoritarians like Hugo Chavez and Fidel Castro, alleging Mamdani's plan would hurt grocery store owners and employees.
Government-run grocery stores. Wow. If only we had an example where that had been tried before that we could check out. Wait a second, there's Venezuela. Let's go check that out. Of course, everywhere that we have socialism, we get lines, lots and lots of lines.
Porque no hay aceite, no hay jabón, no hay pollo, no hay nada prácticamente. Uno va a los supermercados y no hay nada.
Of course, the lines are due to shortages. CNN also did a piece that captured the frustrations as well. Let's take a look.
Even in the driving rain, Venezuelans started their day in search of food, expecting to see the usual grim queues that form at government stores. Not today. The only stores with affordable food are shut. Closed for the National Workers' Holiday, the sign explains. It says sorry and thank you. People walked away empty-handed but full of dread, wondering where their next meal might come from. I asked Julian Perez what he needs.
All the basics. I have nothing at home. Sometimes I go hungry. Who can say that we, the people, aren't hungry right now?
And here's the thing. These people aren't allowed to come back tomorrow. Food is rationed here, doled out according to the last number on your government ID. Carlos Chirinos explains his turn is today. His number is 5.
Cinco. Hoy me toca a mí.
Cinco.
Me toca hoy y el miércoles.
So he's saying that just today and Wednesday can he buy things, and because it's closed today, he's out of luck.
The CNN piece also covered the impacts of government-run health care, and I thought it was worth just sharing that here because it's all tied together and it's all a disaster.
Janet introduces us to her daughter Yazday, who explains the country is out of medicine too. And there's no line you can wait in for that.
Cancer waits for no one. I'm worried about my own health and the health of so many others who are going through this right now.
Yazday is holding unfilled prescriptions for chemo, and she says no doctor, no hospital can tell her when she'll get treatment.
It pains me to see Venezuela in the state that it's in right now. But what really makes my heart ache is the thought of not being here for my daughter tomorrow.
So Venezuela's disastrous experiments with socialism happened over 10 years ago, and it hasn't gotten any better since. But this is what's so sad, is that we have examples, and yet people keep coming back to this time after time after time. But I did want to share one other example, and that is when Boris Yeltsin traveled to this country after the fall of the Soviet Union. Yeltsin literally couldn't believe the wealth, the amount of variety that was there in the grocery stores in this country when he visited them. He literally thought at first he was seeing propaganda, but when he realized that this was literally the way Americans live, and then he, on his trip back to Moscow, he actually said, what have they done to our poor people? He said, I think we have committed a crime against our people by making their standard of living so incomparably lower than that of the Americans. And of course, that's what socialism ultimately delivers. So there you go, and that's a story that Cato had too on the Boris Yeltsin's grocery store trip, and it's amazing. Has Zoran not heard of this? It's just wow. Anyways, yeah, just curious what your guys' thoughts are on it.
I hope this guy does what he's trying to do. I hope he opens up lots of government grocery stores, and go for it, dude. You can do it. Go for it. Give it your best. See what happens.
Jason, quite frankly, I don't know why you had to go all the way to Venezuela to see a good example of socialism at work when we have the public schools right here in the United States that turning out the brains of our children into pure shit. Okay? Because we know when government touch something, it turns to that, exactly that crap. So the point is though, this Zoran Mamdani, or whatever the hell his name is a damn socialist. We all know that now. And he could talk all this fancy stuff and all this fancy crap. He can talk all of it he wants. But we know what's going to happen once you open up your grocery stores. You're going to make things a little more quote-unquote affordable. And you're going to put people out of business. And eventually, your stores are going to go bankrupt. Okay? That's how it works. And then they're going to create, we need to solve the problem. We're going to raise taxes to solve the problem. And it's going to keep on going like that until they disappear. And this is the problem with socialism. Government creates problems, and then they need all tax dollars to solve the problems that they create. And that is exactly what Mamdani is about to do, that jackass. God bless him.
One thing Tim kind of said too is, hoping that he is able to do what he wants to do. I mean, in a way, I think it's sad that people have to go through that. But I mean, if it creates a disparity where people get to see them go all in socialism in New York, maybe that will save the rest of the country. If people see the disparity of what happens there between every place else, maybe that's what it'll take to have our Argentina Malay miracle in this country. But, yeah.
You would hope so, and I really do. Maybe in a sense, Tim is right in that. You would hope so, but Jason, look at the condition of our public schools, especially in the inner cities of America. How long that's been going on, and people are still tolerating the crap. People are still tolerating it. Why? Complacency. And this is what I am afraid of. Mamdani will come out and do his thing and that kind of stuff, and complacency will set in, and then all of a sudden these things are going to become accepted ideas, if you could call them that. No disrespect to the word idea. And these things will become accepted ideas, and next thing you know, we have all these government-run grocery stores, just like the public schools, all over the damn country. This is what I fear. I know what's going to happen. I think we all know what's going to happen to these things. I mean, Tim laid out, right? He wanted to happen so we could all see the end result of socialism at work. Yeah. But my fear is the dependency these things will create and the complacency it will create. And then these things will become accepted ideas.
Yeah. Did you notice too in that one CNN story, the irony? here these people were coming to the grocery store because they needed food. They were told they could only go on that day because that was the number on their card. And it's closed because it's a workers' holiday. And sorry, you're out of luck. I mean, this is, central planning. And
only the madness of socialism could produce an outcome like that. Come on.
It's terrible. Well, I think that's we've reached the end of our show today. So thanks so much for joining us, and I guess stay frosty until the next show. If you can think of something that you can do in your community to help advance liberty, it's on you to do it, because that's the only way we're gonna keep that in the face of all these people looking to encroach on our liberties. So thanks so much for joining us. Until next time, stay tuned and stay free.
Oh, yes, indeed. Life, liberty, and the pursuit of happiness, always and forever.
Thank you for listening to the Knuckleheads of Liberty podcast. Find us on Facebook, Rumble, YouTube, your favorite podcast network, and at knuckleheadsofliberty.com.